Do you think the presidential election is fair? No. According to 60% of you in my class poll, you don't think it's fair. But do you know why? A long history of corrupt finances, suppressed votes, and corruption, and more money than you could ever hope to see has made it so your voice doesn't matter as much as it used to. I'm going to explain to you the big factors and who wins an election in the US and why the current system has inherent flaws and biases that are detrimental to the average person. In a democracy, your voice is supposed to matter. Every person's vote and every person's voice is supposed to be on equal footing with each other. The government we have right now is made up of representatives chosen by you to represent you. They're called public servants. Campaigns are publicly financed, but recently a lot of money has come from extremely wealthy donors and groups. In fact, according to OpenSecrets.org, over $1.4 billion of campaign funding was made by super political action committees and dark groups, which have unregulated money in the 2016 election. As far as credibility, I've gone through sources ranging from James Madison through the Federalist Papers, several documentaries on from Vox, a researcher from Brown University on electoral security, and court cases. I'm going to preview the way candidates manipulate the system in order to gain advantages in the election, the process of gerrymandering, and the role the Electoral College plays in elections. One of the biggest parts of any public election is the campaign. In the past, finance laws have made it harder for campaigns to get more than a reasonable amount from any one person or organization, limiting individual contributions to campaigns to $15,000 for one party and $5,000 for a second campaign. In 2010, this all changed. The Supreme Court case Citizens United versus the Federal Election Commission ruled that under the First Amendment, corporate funding of independent political broadcasts and candidate elections cannot be limited. Before this, political action committees were more heavily regulated in how they could donate to campaigns. However, with the creation of super PACs, which are a lot like political action committees, but instead of donating to campaigns, they run independent campaigns for candidates they favor and then run attack ads against candidates they don't. Their money isn't regulated. While an individual can spend up to $15,000 on one campaign, a super political action committee can spend 15 million or more if they wanted to. In fact, in Florida, over $93 million was spent in the 2018 congressional election to run attack ads and ads for Republicans in the election. One of the easiest solutions to this problem is to overturn Citizens United. It was voted in by a conservative Supreme Court, and it can be voted out by a liberal Supreme Court. All we have to do is get a president who's willing to send liberal suggestions to the Supreme Court. There's two people up for retirement, and they're waiting. They're waiting for a chance for a liberal appointment. Besides political campaigns, even if every potential candidate was on equal footing in the campaign, many states are gerrymandered and put one state at an advantage. Voting districts are used to elect members of Congress, both senators and members of the House of Representatives. There's 435 House seats up in the United States. Who is in these districts is different for each state. In 35 states, the elected state legislature draws the lines for each district. In 7 states, it's done by independent agencies. In seven more states, there's only one electoral district, so no one has to do it at all. And in one, a politician commission, although that's kind of a weird word, is responsible for drawing the lines. Gerrymandering becomes a problem when the elected legislature decides where district boundaries are and who is in them. Thomas Hofeller is responsible for a lot of gerrymandered districts we see in place today, although a lot of them have been overturned. He once said, "Usually, voters get to pick the politicians. In redistricting, politicians get to pick the voters. It's like an election in reverse." This video, which is part of a Vox documentary on gerrymandering, explains the strategies of gerrymandering.
The basics of gerrymandering are actually pretty simple. If you're a Republican trying to keep power, you want to do two things. First, pack as many Democratic voters as possible into a single district. If you have have a district where almost everyone votes Democrat, that means almost half these votes are basically wasted. You can also crack big Democratic areas into separate districts where there are slightly more Republicans. So even though an area has a lot of Democratic votes, they would actually lose in this district and in this district. These are the two elements of classic gerrymandering: packing and cracking.
Some of the potential solutions to gerrymandering is to have independent agencies draw all the districts, with transparency being the key factor. This gives less power to the elected legislator to cheat in order to stay in power, because independent agencies have nothing to gain from gerrymandering. By making the process entirely transparent, it's a lot harder for corruption to hold. Once we have districts that are drawn fairly, the next step is addressing the way we choose the president, which is currently through an old system called the Electoral College. The Electoral College is a group of 538 people, electors, selected every 4 years by their state for the sole purpose of electing the President of the United States. A majority of 270 votes is needed to win the office. States are awarded electors based on their population, with large states like California having the most at 55, and smaller states like Connecticut and Hawaii only having 3. The problem isn't necessarily in the system itself, but in how the system allocates votes to the candidates, with 47 states having a winner-take-all, meaning if there's 51% of the votes in California, that party gets all 55 votes and not half of them. The solution, however, according to Darrell West of the Brown University, might be to abolish it altogether. In addition, he added that it might be effective just to give proportional votes to each candidate, making it possible for a third party to win, or for the popular vote to have more of an effect. In conclusion, the way that we elect our government is not unbiased. It is directly biased against the majority. We need to make it known that we will not stand for a system that suppresses votes, makes it harder for certain ethnic groups to vote, that cheats in order to win. If you cannot win without cheating, you do not deserve to win. We need to, as a nation, address the issues and the problems themselves, not just the symptoms. So please, call your friends, call your representatives, call your friends in other states and have them call their representatives. Let your voice be heard. If you want to see a future that you can live in, everyone needs to act together to hold the government accountable. The government works for us, but right now, they aren't working for us.